This can hit you at any time and take the joy out of the game. Hello and welcome to Incursion Tactics. This week I will be mostly talking about burnout. And no, I don't mean the 2001 racing game. I mean the very real psychological thing that is not often talked about in wargaming. Let's break down the signs of burnout and, most importantly, how to combat it and keep the passion for the game alive so that you can focus on what's important to you. First off, I want to talk about what burnout is. It's a state of physical and mental, sometimes emotional exhaustion. It's more than just being tired after a long day or frustrated after losing a game. It's a deeper sense of fatigue and disinterest that can creep into any part of our life, including our hobbies. In the context of miniature gaming, burnout can manifest in various ways. Maybe you find yourself dreading your next painting session, or perhaps the thought of setting up for a game just feels overwhelming, or you could be feeling detached, like you're just going through the motions without any real enjoyment. Speaking from experience, I remember a few years back, I was struggling to enjoy anything, and I was going through quite a stressful time at work, and things outside of work as well were quite tough at that time, and it was very difficult to find joy in hobbies and the things that I enjoyed doing, to the point where I thought about seeking medical assistance because I just didn't know what to do. There was a point in the day, I remember it quite vividly, when I went to do some painting because I knew I'd gotten to a point where I'd been putting off and procrastinating doing any painting, and I felt like I was getting behind on top of feeling stressed at work and things going on with family, and I started to then feel guilty and wanted to do some painting because I'd got this backlog and I felt like I had to do some painting, and so I wanted to crack on and do it. And I remember I sat there in the kitchen just staring at the paint stuff for about an hour, and I wasn't procrastinating in the traditional sense. I was so detached and disassociated from the hobby and the joy of that. I just sat there. I wasn't even scrolling on my phone, wasn't even trying to find things to do. I was just there. I couldn't even engage with what should have been a really fun thing, my hobbies, and I realised I was not coping. I was struggling with the things that were going on, and I was just unable to connect, and I was exhausted. Burnout being a state of exhaustion, that's what I was experiencing. In the end, things got less stressful. I was very fortunate and I had a very clear sight of what was causing the issues in my both work and family life, and so I was able to tackle those, get to the root of those. But that feeling is something that really seeped into my hobby and made me realise that even though it wasn't the cause of any problem, that this sense of exhaustion or detachment, just going through the motions, like I said, without any real enjoyment, can stem from the hobby itself. As at the time, it might not have been the main cause of the stress. It certainly was adding to it, that feeling of guilt at not having finished my painting when I thought I should be doing it, and letting that pile up was eating away at me and becoming a source of stress in and of itself. And so it's important to realise that these feelings of burnout, exhaustion, they don't make us weak or any less of a hobbyist. They're natural responses to prolonged stress and high expectations, whether those pressures come from ourselves or other sources, but they're a response to those stresses. And so being able to understand that and respond to that is really important in the understanding and dealing with burnout. So I talked on a few symptoms that I experienced when I was going through this, and I want to summarize how they might manifest for you as well. So a loss of enthusiasm is the big one, and this is a really subtle one because it creeps up on you. You don't necessarily know that the enthusiasm is waning. We all have good and bad days in life in general, so we can easily peg a bad game or a less enthusiastic moment up to just a bad day. It's not necessarily the sign of a problem. The first sign of burnout is losing that excitement that you once felt for the hobby. Activities that used to excite us, like painting or planning next army lists, they start to feel like work. The idea of engaging in these activities can then go from feeling a little bit like work to then just being a complete turn-off altogether, and something we then don't actually want to do and then avoid doing, disassociate from. Coupled with that is just a general sense of fatigue and low energy. Persistent tiredness is a very common symptom of burnout, just feeling exhausted, even after a good night's sleep. This kind of fatigue really makes it difficult to find the energy to play or paint, and you get this increased irritability. Do you find yourself getting frustrated during games or quibbling over minor things in a game, overreacting to things you don't really understand why? That irritability is a sure sign that you could be burning out. Difficulty concentrating, focusing on the games, remembering rules. That used to be second nature. That is another big red flag. Mental fog is a textbook sign of burnout. And again, avoidance and procrastination, that was a big one for me. And this really does send you spiraling as well, because it's not a solution to the problem. It's a defense mechanism, but one that just does not tackle the root cause. You might start avoiding painting, postponing painting sessions, not turning up at game nights, and you're overwhelmed. You just don't want to engage, because in those moments, it's easier to give that flight response instead of a fight response. That old flight or fight response in our animal brains in response to stress. When we're overwhelmed, it can just be to find excuses and not do it. I talked about feeling detached, disconnected from your community, and the emotional bond that you once had with the hobby is just not there. And if any of those symptoms feel familiar to you, then it's important to acknowledge them. Ignoring burnout will lead to a deeper sense of disengagement, and it's going to make it even harder to kickstart your passion for the game again. Burnout doesn't just affect your mood, it can also impact your performance and enjoyment in the game. If you're suffering with a bit of brain fog or exhaustion, then your creativity and your mental capacity is going to be completely overloaded, not functioning. Coming up with new strategies, new ideas, it's just going to be an uphill battle, and you're just going to stick to old habits or not be actively engaging mentally with the game, which is only going to make your games worse and the feeling of burnout worse as you make poor tactical decisions or struggle just to keep up with what your opponent might be doing. That's going to feel frustrating and lead to low enjoyment, because you might even be aware you're making bad decisions but not able to do anything about it, and so it's going to spiral, and that impact is going to be like a domino effect. Friends and people in your gaming group might notice that you're just being a bit grumpy but not fully understand why, and that can be quite unfortunate, because they're not going to necessarily know what's going on inside your head. They're just going to see you being a bit off, and that could be awkward. And so understanding these impacts is important, because it underscores why addressing burnout is so important. It's not just about maintaining your hobby, it's about preserving your overall well-being and your relationship within your gaming community. So what can we do about it? First of all, set clear, achievable goals. Shameless plug of the video that I did last week, and I'll link it at the end of this one, and I'll put it in the video description as well. But having goals is so powerful, because it will give you a sense of clarity and also a sense of achievement as well. If you say to yourself, I'm going to get this whole combat patrol painted, that can quickly snowball into, I haven't painted it, I haven't done this, or I'm trying to learn the game whilst painting, and now I've got this tension between painting the models and learning the game. I've ended up not really doing a very good job of either. I've got a lot of unpainted models and I haven't really learnt the game, and I'm just feeling stressed out. So having a goal of, okay, I'm going to try and learn the game, and my time to learn the game is going to be this much time a week, and then by the end of the month I will have achieved X or Y. Insert what you'd like to achieve here. And then also for painting, in separate allotted painting time, I'm going to try and paint just one miniature each week for this next month. So by the end of that week, I would have painted 4 models. Only 4 models, but they will be fully painted, and you'll be able to track your progress each week and feel really good about what you've achieved by following that process. And as I say, I've got a clearer video on how to go about doing that, which I will share below. And as well as scheduling hobby time, it's also important to schedule downtime, taking regular breaks from the hobby, downtime to recharge, take a week off, skipping a game. It's okay to take a step back, to refresh and just chill, not be doing the same thing every day. To that end, mix up what you enjoy doing with the hobby and how you enjoy engaging with the hobby. Variety is the spice of life, after all. Instead of just focusing on getting the games in, listen to one of the audiobooks, read some more Warhammer lore, watch some battle reports, maybe have a go at building an army that you wouldn't normally, just as a passion project. There's other ways you can keep the interest in the hobby going without feeling like you have to be productive all the time. So if there's something that you do a lot, actively try and find things that are not that thing to give you a bit of a palate cleanse. Joining online groups, connecting with the community is a really important thing. I know it's not always easy if locally there isn't a local gaming store near you, but even just online communities, like, for example, shameless plug time again, if you become a paying member of this channel, partnered up with Epic Flail to offer a fantastic community. There's an online group of us via Discord. If you become a paying member of this channel, $2.99 a month, you get access to that Discord. There's a wealth of other Discords you could join out there as well for free. Have a look on Reddit. I'm sure there's tons of other communities you could find online to help share support, motivation for the hobby. We do have a share and support section in the Discord we have here. Mental health is a big, important part of why we wanted to start the Discord, for that sense of community to help with things like this. And so I'm a big believer in finding a community and leveraging that in a really positive way to not be burnt out by the hobby and just share and support each other. Burnout is a very real thing. Prevention is better than cure, but even if you already find yourself struggling with some of this, hopefully this has been useful, at the very least, to be able to try and understand why you might be feeling the way that you are feeling, and give you some things to think about how you can go about addressing that and finding the joy in the hobby once again. If you're enjoying this video, then consider liking and subscribing. It really helps to support the channel, in addition to making use of the affiliate links in the video description below as well. If you're already thinking about making some purchases, buying some new models, then please consider doing so through those links, as it continues to support the channel. And a big thank you to those of you that are doing so. And don't forget, a really helpful way to tackle burnout is to set yourself smart goals. And to really help with that, I've made a video which you can find here or in the video description below. In the meantime, thanks very much for watching. Keep rolling those dice and be kind to yourself.